Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, Community Financial's President CEO Tansley Stern podcast, Despite Impossible. Now on to the show.
Studio Lounge interviews brought to you by Trellance.
Hey everybody, Mike Lawson here with CUBroadcast. Welcome back to our continued coverage of the 2025 Trellance EDGE conference. Can you believe that, Tom?
Yes.
2025?
It's going by fast.
Oh my goodness.
Just like my career.
Well, yeah, we can all say that, but
Yeah.
what a career.
Yes, I've had a
Even
good
so
one.
far. It's
Yeah.
been pretty darn good, actually.
Yeah.
So all right, so we are here in beautiful Las Vegas at Trellance EDGE and having a great time. Day 2.5, and we're here with Mr. Tom Davis from Presidency of Trellance, and now it's called Trellance Cooperative Holdings.
Yes.
Tom Davis, pretty
Yes.
impressive. So what is this? What's the term? What's the name and the positioning and the three entities below kind of the Trellance umbrella now? This is interesting stuff you guys have got going here.
It sure is. You know, it's sort of one of those things whenever you're comfortable, you should change things and make it very confusing for everybody. That's
Very
probably
true.
the way everybody's looking at it.
Yeah.
The brainchild of Trellance Cooperative Holdings has actually been in the works for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, has it?
One of the acquisitions that we made, back in 2020, I guess, 2021. Was a company that did great work around analytics, and at that time, we were very deep into that space with data and some of the predictive models. And this company was working with a company that we had purchased, and they were building some of the models for them. So we wanted that talent, so we acquired them. And what came to light was there were credit unions out there that we at the time called them DIY, meaning they had already built their structured data warehouses and things like that.
Right.
And really all they wanted was really the talent to be able to put the predictive models together on top of it. So we thought, well, if we put this inside of the analytics company, it's going to look like this is a service on top of one of our products, as opposed to a service available to credit unions that might be doing DIY or QSOs or anyone else out there. And so we really wanted to bifurcate those two business lines. And at that point in time, you start to think about, okay, now you got two companies, how are they going to work together? How are you going to brand them? And so we thought we really need a holding company because we weren't done yet. We had a lot of work we want to do. In fact, I'm going to, I think, be in an interview with you in a moment about a very
back-to-back.
about a very, very different, sort of partnership that we're forming with someone that is way outside of what most people would think is an analytics play, even though there is a lot of technology underneath that partnership. So anyway, we acquired that company, and then we branded it as a sort of Trellance this and Trellance that. So you what I would call master brand strategy, and that was sort of a park this while we figure out how to go to market with a holding company. To be honest with you, we have Trellance Cooperative Holdings has been the company for quite some time. We just call it Trellance for short because everything was named Trellance, and it's just easier. Nobody really cared about what was going on under the scenes. Yeah. So we've had Trellance Cooperative Holdings for quite some time. We developed a company called Trellance LLC at that time. We put the business entities inside of that and sort of as a holding place while we thought about the branding of what we were going to do. Since then, we've acquired another company that does basic cloud operations, IT ops, and some other things for credit unions in the tech space. And so we bifurcated all those brands this year and gave them their own brand. They've got their own booths here.
ProBrdige down there.
Optiri and Rise Analytics.
Yep.
And they are basically those three business lines spun out into their own entities. What was Trellance Cooperative Holdings is now a holding company, and I'm the CEO of Trellance Cooperative Holdings. All we did was start calling it Cooperative Holdings so everybody would know it's different than what Trellance was, but all along it's always been Trellance Cooperative Holdings. We've just branded it Trellance. So a lot of that mishmash has caused a lot of confusion in the space. Most of the credit unions will most likely do business with our sub-brands, which is Rise Analytics, Optiri, and ProBrdige. Trellance Cooperative Holdings has a whole new sort of mission that's new maybe to the market. I'm the CEO of Trellance Cooperative Holdings. I'm also running those businesses for now. And as I move into the later parts,
like you don't have enough on your plate.
Like I don't have enough on plate. I'm also working with a bunch of credit unions in Filene to bring to life QDEX. And so for the next couple of years, I'm going to try to basically get all this confusion out of the marketplace and say, well, what is the difference between Trellance LLC, Trellance Cooperative Holdings? And that's what I'm trying to explain today.
Gotcha.
So Trellance Cooperative Holdings is, we have a fund, and we deploy that fund for the betterment of the credit union industry. It is not specific to technology. We will entertain any kind of an investment or strategic partnership that requires funding or strategy. And my board, the board I work for, runs that with me. And then these sub-brands, they have their own mission. They work together with intercompany operating agreements, meaning Rise Analytics can buy services from ProBrdige and Optiri and things like that. So we make sure that they all work together, and so they get the synergistic benefit of being part of the same family, but yet can serve their own mission so they can really target their products and services to meet credit unions' needs, which is what they really need to be doing and what credit unions want us to do. And then that leaves Trellance LLC. What is that? Well, Trellance LLC is the shared services component of all of this. It's what most people would think a back office, but a little bit more. We're obviously talking finance and HR and, and legal and things like that, risk, IT ops, things like that. But we're also talking, sales and marketing, account management, onboarding, customer service and, customer experience, things like that. So what we do with that layer is we provide services to our brands that we hold, and so they can share them to drive the overall cost down. But what we're doing now is we're going to take that to market. We're going to take that and make it available to those that are part of the Trellance family, even if it's just a minority stake. So if the Trellance Cooperative Holding Company decides to invest in something, and whatever that something is, needs some of those services, they can sort of get those services, or we can provide those services to help fund, if you will, CUSOs or startups that come into the credit union industry.
I like that.
So it's a shared services layer, really more around helping the service providers for the credit union industry to make sure that they have operational excellence in all of the components and all the capabilities that I explained. So it's sort of like a 3-tier hamburger is what it looks like. If you look at it, you got the Trellance.
It's a Wendy's triple.
It's a Wendy's triple burger, right? So you got the holding company at the top. You've got these sort of individualized missions that work cohesively together to provide services for credit unions, what most credit unions will do business with. And then underneath that, a shared services layer that provides operational excellence to everything that Trellance is involved in. And that includes EDGE. So all of the, everything that EDGE is, it's its own brand. It can run completely autonomous of any of the other layers. But all of the event, all of the planning, all of the marketing, all of the branding, that's all done by the shared services layer. So any partnerships we have, if we do event planning for them, or if we, help them with any other services, we can do that with, that Trellance LLC layer that goes out. So, so my job, Tom Davis's job, which is probably what everybody's saying.
What is your job?
Yeah,
now,
so my job is to get all this right, and then make sure the market understands that. Come up with a much better way to say it than I'm saying it today. So the marketing and branding people are going to help me with that, and then put the leaders into place to make this work. It is a very unique structure in the credit union industry. There's a lot of folks out there doing some or pieces of what we're doing, but it's very much driven towards trying to make sure that we use the funds and the capitals that we have to basically better the credit union industry, and we do it the best way possible. Where everybody has their own mission, their ability to do what they need to do, to precisely serve the credit unions that they need to serve, but yet have all of the back office and all of the infrastructure they need to be able to do it very, very well. So what has been the feedback so far? Because you kind of we already talked talked about this a little bit at GAC. Just kind of got a surface level thing. So since GAC, what has been the reception? What's been the feedback? It's
obviously
good.
You're filling a void.
And
you're doing it very nicely. So
I think it's a good question. I think when you talk with folks that are out there in the space that may need funding or may need operational excellence, what I'm talking about are the CUSOs and the fintechs and the service providers. Lots of interest. They are like, hey, this is what I've needed a long time. There's a lot of organizations out there that do really, really great work for CUSOs. But this is something that no one really has stepped into to help these CUSOs with business planning and adoption and funding, all in one shop, and where they can take pieces as they need. That's a very, very different way to look at it. There's folks out there that do a very good job with funding and do a very, very good job with advocacy and so on and so forth. This is not that. This is something that rides alongside of that. So we're filling a very unmet need, and so the reception from them has been very, very good. Reception for the market is like, who am I doing business with, right? Okay, so that's very fair. We
that'll shake out.
That'll shake out. That'll shake out. And a lot of them, and now that they have their brands, heck, half of them are walking around with their jackets, and I work with them, and I'm in the office with them, and everybody's got their own brand, their own email addresses, and so a lot of confusion there. The email addresses and the domains and the websites and everything just rolled out at GAC. That was only a couple months ago. So brand confusion is certainly there, and there was no way to probably do this without that. To your point, I'm watching that dust settle even here at EDGE. For the 300 or 400 folks that are here, they're starting to see, okay, I see how this all plays together very well. There's been a lot of folks out there helping us. Mark Meyer from Filene has been a great advocate for us. Our board, April Clubs. I mean, there's just so many great people out there that do a lot of great work, and they're out there helping me get the word out. And eventually that will filter through the industry.
Well, you have some obviously super talented people on your board.
Yeah.
So did they initiate some of this as well? Or I mean, obviously it's a two-way street, but I'm sure.
Yeah, our board meetings are fascinating. I mean, there's pretty much anything can hit the table. I mean, we're very structured as a board.
Yeah.
We've got a great Rob from Ardent, very, very smart guy, very good guy at basically pulling everybody together and making sure, okay, these are good ideas. What committees should they go into? How should all this work filter into the board? How do we prioritize that work? We talk about work a lot at the board meeting. So the board works. Our board works very, very hard. They're super, super bright people. They're willing to not sit still, and they're willing to push me. So, and if you can push me, you're doing good.
Not bad.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a really great board, really great advocates and partners that we've made in the space. And so I would say brand confusion is the one thing we're experiencing. We understood that. We're out there messaging as hard as we can. And then the other part of it is getting to this new market, the market that needs our shared services and our capital and our strategy and our funding and our board's insights to be able to help them move forward.
Yeah. Well, the consistency in your messaging will certainly help out.
Yeah.
It'll mitigate that.
And it'll get better. Next time I talk to you, I'll have it down to, it'll even be better.
It'll be a 30-second elevator speech, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears to EDGE here real quickly before I let you go.
Sure.
So this is the second EDGE, obviously. So what's different about it this year? Because you guys made a few changes since last year's initial inaugural EDGE. Yeah,
this year, first off, yesterday was fantastic.
I heard, oh my gosh.
So everyone that comes to EDGE, really talking about the service providers and the CUSOs. It's a very, very inexpensive spend, and you get in front of people that buy. You also, get the opportunity not just in a showroom, but on stage. You get an opportunity to tell the entire audience what you do. So we're talking about, maybe a 10-minute demo, however you want to do that on stage to make sure the credit union market, and this is the way I sort of think of EDGE 2025. The credit unions need to know what's out there. Who's out there doing what. What do I need to do in my shop, and what can I partner with, and who are these companies and what do they do? And so that was all what day one is. Day two, as we were talking with Lamont, now it's all about what the credit union industry needs from these folks. So flip the stage, put them in the audience, and talk to them about, hey, you do this, but this is really what I need. And of course, day three is, how are we gonna meet those gaps?
Yeah, you have a bunch of workshops.
A bunch of workshops. So really you can sign up, and you're like, hey, if we're sitting here talking about, Lamont's in there right now talking about how we can use AI to actually interface with getting the data as opposed to having using AI once the data's in the systems. Okay, fine. Who's going to fill that gap? Who out here can do things like that for credit unions and help them mature along that roadmap? And so tomorrow's that. So we're going to grab these a few. I think it's about a handful of topics. We're going to talk about credit unions and the fintechs folks. Go in the room and they sit around with whiteboards and they say, okay, how are we going to draw this up? And who's going to come back to EDGE 26 and figure that out? I know you want to ask me about EDGE 26, so I'll just sort of go right on in there.
One.
Yep. So what's going to be
ahead.
different with EDGE 25 and EDGE 26? Well, first off, I think EDGE 25 so far has been a smashing success.
I think so too.
Yeah.
A lot of smiling faces.
Yeah,
for sure.
and I think we're going to get a lot more service providers there next year that are going to say, hey, this is a way for me to get my word out. It's relatively inexpensive when you think about how hard it is to get your word out in this space. There's credit unions there that can buy, and they can help me with my product roadmap. So what's next? Next year is really about the Trellance Cooperative Holdings. At that point in time, I would like some parallel, sort of tracks, if you will, around helping folks, the service providers and the fintechs, get the operational excellence they need and get the funding they need to be able to be successful. And so I would like to put that right alongside in EDGE 26. It's a new track that we want to add next year, really talking about how do we make our service providers even better and stronger, because this is the way I really look at my job, and this I can say in a sentence or two. My job is to make sure that the service providers can serve credit unions very well, because the credit unions know what they need to do. They need to rely on this layer, and my job is to make sure that this layer is strong and will be around for a long time. This space is so dynamic, it moves so fast, and the credit unions can't possibly keep their hands on everything. They need help from this layer, and I am laser focused on this layer. Laser focused on this layer, and EDGE is all around bringing these two folks together, these two bodies. As I said in my opening remarks, you've got the smartest folks in financial services and the most forward-leaning, tech providers. Bring them together and make sure that they are moving in harmony. And that the tech providers have everything they need, and that's what I've designed Trellance Cooperative Holdings to do.
Well, guys are definitely on the right path for sure.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Setting yourselves up nicely on the well, I'm going to say the launch pad, but you're already off the launch pad.
We're somewhere up there.
Yeah, somewhere up there doing some really good stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really impressive to see just the philosophy behind it, the strategies behind it, and then the execution is really exciting to see. I mean, you guys never cease to amaze and throw a few curveballs at the same time to keep us on our toes, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So we really need to stay on our toes in this industry because, like you said, it's moving so fast.
It is.
So and to have you guys there to kind of organize the chaos that's fintech these days is such a huge help to credit unions these days because that's a full-time job.
It is. It is
keeping track of all the fintech stuff out there.
And so we'll do our job well, and we'll work with everybody else that's doing their job well, and we're going to move things forward.
All right. Well, Tom, this is again, just it's really phenomenal to see how you guys have really just. I mean, it's almost like every year you transform. Trellance into.
I only have a few more of those years left. Then I'm going to transform my golf game. Is what I'm going to do after that.
There'll be plenty of time for that later. Let's do some really cool stuff here in the meantime. So all right. Well, I'm going to let you get going, but thank you so much for the update and just the evolution of what's going on. It's really exciting to see, and I think it's equally exciting for credit unions to watch as well and to experience.
Awesome.
So good stuff.
All right. Always great, Mike.
Tom,
appreciate you.
Keep up the good work. Always fun. Always an adventure.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Studio Lounge interviews brought to you by Trellance.
A quick word from our sponsor, Community Financial's President CEO Tansley Stern's new podcast, Despite Impossible.